What the fuck?
What's going on, guys? Big Al's Bike and Auto here, coming at you. And I'd say pretty much all of you guessed correctly what vehicle I bought. Here it is, the 2002 S600, of course, V12 equipped. Now you may see the title and say, wait a minute, you paid $1 for this vehicle? Well, in theory. So I think I hinted at this in the previous video of the Sonic. This vehicle's been in my family since new. My grandfather bought it off the showroom floor. Actually, he had bought one before this. The same car ended up being a lemon. Hell, these cars end up being lemons their entire life. They're absolute money pits. I'm well aware of that. I don't need anybody here to tell me this car is a money pit. Of course it is. It's a W220. And on top of that, it's a V12 W220. It's an absolute money pit. So his first one was a lemon, and they ended up getting this one. And of course, it's cost my grandfather probably tens of thousands of dollars over the years to keep it on the road. And he always dealer serviced it. He's not the kind to bring it to an independent garage, which I don't agree with, but that worked out for me because I got a car, it's been way over maintained. Things have been replaced that never needed to be replaced. I always kept an eye on this car's maintenance. Let me open the garage here, get some more light. I obsessed over this car from the day he got it and the one before it. And before those two, he had, I think it was a 95 or a 96. So that body style S600, those are built a lot better. That was the S-Class that Mercedes spent like $1 billion engineering. And of course, they have their problems too. Any vehicle this complicated is going to be expensive to keep on the road as it gets older. But those ones were a little more solid, especially the way they're constructed. They had the big dual pane windows and they didn't rust out like these ones do. They were a better quality vehicle, but this is still a great vehicle to me. Again, expensive to keep on the road, but when it is working, it is such a wonderful car to drive. And I'm sure you've heard, most of you I would assume are subscribed to Auto Auction Rebuilds, also known as Uberman. And he had one of these for a month or so. He had some issues with the ABC suspension, but overall it was a pretty good vehicle for him. And it had very similar repairs that mine has had done already. Mine's also had the head gasket done. It had the oil cooler gasket done, which is a big issue on these. Those were both done at the same time, pretty recently actually. I think this year alone, they put about $8,000 into it. It did have some ABC work done in the past. All kinds of repairs. When I got this vehicle, well, let me start from scratch here. I've been trying to acquire this vehicle for a number of years now. My grandfather passed away back in June, but he had a stroke back in 2008, and shortly after that stopped driving, and the vehicle kind of just sat. And even in my younger years, I was pretty much the only person driving this thing anymore, just trying to keep it operational because you can't let these cars sit. It's like the worst thing for them. So I would drive it a lot. And then when I moved to Florida, a lot of my family members were driving it. It was kind of the backup car. As of late, after my grandfather passed away, they have been obviously liquidating his assets. And one of my uncles has been using this car since his passing because he had a lease that expired on a new S-Class, and he was just waiting for a good deal to come along on our lease. So he was driving this, and it was giving him all sorts of issues, and he started talking about getting rid of it. And I have always said to my family members, I want to buy that car when the time comes. Do not sell it. Do not trade it in. I will buy it. Name your price. I will pay fair retail for it. I'm not looking for a handout. Just let me have that damn car. I know what I'm getting into. I know it's a money pit, but it's very nostalgic for me. I was very fond of my grandfather. He was a big inspiration for me. Self-made guy, and he was very proud of this car. You know, years of hard work allowed him to own something like this, and it was his baby. Even after his stroke, he didn't know much of what was going on, but he would always say to everybody, where's my car? Is my car okay? Always be panicking about where his car was. We used to have to walk him over to the garage and show him it was still in the garage. That was one of the reasons nobody sold it for the past 10 years, because he would have a panic attack if he didn't know where his car was. It was his baby. So everybody else, to them, it's just a car. They wanted the thing gone. I wanted it, and found out my uncle was about to trade the thing in. And I said, you are not doing anything with that vehicle. I don't care if I have to overpay for it. I will own that car. And to my luck, and initially didn't seem so, but the ABC suspension that week went wacky. He was driving it to work, and I saw him over the weekend, so a few weeks ago, and it was leaving massive pools of Pentacin, which is the hydraulic fluid these suspensions use, all over the ground. So I said, Unc, you can't be driving it like that. He goes, oh yeah, the dashboard's lit up red. It says, stop driving immediately, take to workshop. So I said, okay, leave the car with me. I'll take it to a few shops with my AAA and get some quotes, and we'll go from there. So the first shop I used to use for the real old Mercedes, kind of like my 300E, the bank vault Benzes. And they're not as familiar with these, but they've worked on them, obviously. But I brought it there, and they gave me a rather quick diagnosis. They said it was the ABC pump. Now, this thing was pissing out fluid. At least it appeared that way. And I'm saying to myself, okay, how could a pump go from not leaking at all, which was the case a few weeks ago, to leaking everywhere and so rapidly? I topped off the Pentacin in it just for getting it off the AAA truck. You don't want to run these pumps dry. If they don't have Pentacin in them and you're running the car, you'll burn it out. And the pump for Mercedes is over $1,000. So you don't want to run these systems dry. So I kept topping it off, which isn't very good either. You're never supposed to mix Pentacin with old Pentacin, but it's better than having nothing in there, of course. So anyway, it would lose the fluid almost instantly. At least it appeared that way. And I said, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way that pump could be leaking that bad. And that shop wanted $2,200 to change the pump, top off the Pentacin again. So didn't seem like a crazy price compared to the dealer, but I said, let me take it, let me look around a little bit more, see if I can find anybody else who's familiar with these cars. So I ended up finding a guy up here who specializes in just this chassis Mercedes, a W220. And he had an excellent website where he talked about, symptoms when these suspensions have issues. If it's doing this, then it's this, blah, blah, blah. Instructions on how to fix it, where to get the best price on the parts, if there's reman parts available, if he's had any luck at reman parts. I'm like, wow. And I didn't even realize this guy was local. I was just reading his website, and I'm like, geez, I wish this guy was near me. And I look, and his shop's about 25 minutes away. You're going to be kidding me. So I call him up immediately. And I said, I've got this S600. I'm going to bring it down to you on a flatbed. This is what's going on. Tell me what you think it is. I didn't tell him what the other guy told me. You never do that. You let the mechanic figure it out on their own. And so I bring it over there. The guy plugs in. He's got the Mercedes computer, and he's doing the suspension dance and all that, where they have each corner go up and down. And the odd thing is, the first shop, when they inspected it to see what the problem was, obviously they topped off the system again. And when I got there to pick it up with the flatbed, it wasn't leaking anymore. Even when I had it running, it wasn't leaking, and the system was full. So the car was fine again, and I go, this is weird. And I told the next mechanic, okay, well, this was leaking, and now it's not. And we did the suspension test at his shop, and everything was working perfectly. No warning light, nothing. So he goes, let me look into it. So what it ended up being, and this is the funny thing, right? I just got this car, although when I started this process of diagnosing it wasn't mine yet. By the time I went to the second shop, my family agreed to just give me the car, for $1, essentially free. There has to be some exchange of currency for the paperwork. But they gave me the car for free, or for $1, whatever you want to call it, because they didn't want to deal with the repairs. They heard the first quote of $2,200 and said, forget it, just take the car. Which, of course, I was jumping for joy. I've been excited all week. And this happened last week, but obviously it was at this second shop for a few days over the weekend. So the car is mine. I own the car. Already did the paperwork, the title transfer, everything. as I was saying, ended up being the accumulators in the suspension. Now, I don't know much about this hydraulic suspension lingo, so I'm going to sound like an idiot explaining what they told me. But there's an accumulator in the back and one in the front that have to do with the way the hydraulic fluid goes through the system. And they were bad, or they were going bad, I should say, and that was causing, at times, the Pentacin fluid to go back to the pump when it wasn't supposed to, I guess, and it was shooting out of the pump. Something like that. I don't quite understand. I have the paperwork in the car. It says what was done. But this was a few days ago. I picked it up, and the car's working perfectly again. No leaks, nothing. So 2 accumulators, and all the Pentacin fluid it needed. Parts and labor, $700. 2 hours of labor at $98. Good luck finding somebody to work on one of these cars for $98 an hour when your average mom and pop garage is at $75, sometimes even $80. Good effing luck. And only 2 hours labor. That's honesty. So you get that adjusting steering wheel. You can see no more service lights. No malfunctions. That nice 15 miles a gallon. Well, that's after start. I still have the telephone in here and everything. Service fee isn't due for their 5,400 miles. I know I got music playing on this radio, so I gotta mute it right away or I'm gonna get demonetized. I remember I was so in awe of this little information screen here, the nav screen on it, when I was younger, because we didn't have, I mean, granted my Escalade's 2 years newer, it's got a much nicer one, but that was still pretty high-end technology back then. You didn't have a Camry with something like that in it, for example. That's where your tape goes. So let me back this thing out, you guys have a better look at it. It's got all the parking sensors, everything like that. Even on the sides of the car, which is great because I have a pretty tight parking spot here in my garage for this car. See, it's warning me I was getting too close to the Fiero there. Let's bring her out, have a quick look at her, and I'll take you guys for a quick spin around the block. I'm sure this video is getting long, as they always do. But it was a good story behind this car. So, there's no such thing, a cheap Mercedes, there's no such thing. You get a cheap Mercedes as it being expensive. There's some slogan like that. Or the most expensive Mercedes is a cheap one, whatever it is. Same goes for BMW. Although I've been pretty lucky with my E36s, but I've explained in a previous video why those cars don't quite live up to that BMW bad reputation that the other ones do. I know you've seen a lot of this car in Uberman's videos. He did a great review of it. You know, it's got all the crazy luxury features like the screen back here that I guess doesn't work anymore. Oh, there it goes. I don't think that's been used in probably 12 years. You've got the back seat mirrors here. There's shades on the side that pull up manually. Heated, cooled seats. Let me see. I'm going to show you guys what I had done. Here we go. ABC accumulator, 2 of them at $1.74 each. The hydraulic fluid. Look, he's only charging me $15.20 for Pentacin. You know what that crap costs at the auto parts store? It's like 25 bucks a quart. Got the ABC filter. So there's the job. It was $765, but it only charged me $700 because that was the estimate he gave me. Real honest guy. So that's repair number 1. Before I even got the car home, I've already dumped 700 bucks into it. W220 life. But, you know, I'm well aware of that, and I don't want to say that I'm happy about it, but I'm okay with it because this has been a dream for me to own this car, and hopefully enough repairs have been done that it won't be too crazy to maintain it. I'm not going to be daily driving this. I'll certainly drive it. You have to keep them working properly, but I'm not going to rack up a ton of miles on it, so I don't think I'm going to have too many issues. You can see we have the V12 foot plate there. This has the vacuum doors as well, so if you close it softly, they close. The AMG wheels. It's bone stock, obviously. My grandfather wasn't modifying anything on the car. You can see the finish is in great shape because it's always been a New England vehicle and it's always been garaged. So it never saw, you know, any real sun exposure. It's dirty as hell. This car is 380 horse, which you're probably surprised, probably thinking that seems awfully low for a 12-cylinder. The older V12 in the 90s actually made 400 horse. So I'm not quite sure why that changed and went lower. Maybe it was an emissions thing. But it did. And it's still plenty of power. Oh. Jesus. Remember I popped the hood to show you guys the engine? I saw that red come on. I almost had a stroke. Be right back. Anytime you see a red warning message on these information centers, your heart sinks. And fortunately, it was just my own human error there. That's all taken care of. I popped the hood to show you guys the engine, but I never did. Did that at the very end of the video. I'm having issues with this hood latch. There she is. Not much to see. It's got that massive air filter covering up the engine, but this is the ABC system here, the reservoirs and pump. You can see there's still some residual stuff down there, but let's check that fluid level. So we're okay, we're right on the hot mark. That's the cold mark up there. You'll be seeing a lot more of this car, I'm sure. Hopefully not a lot more repair videos, hopefully just enjoyment videos. I'm gonna give it a full detail. There's a few things I wanna fix. Like oh, I think he might have fixed them for me. Jeez, what a guy. These were all popped out, these little grills down here, but it looks like he fixed them. Nice guy. I wanna replace this right here. It's been cracked for years and just needs a good solid detail. I don't think I'm going to change the taillights or headlights. Again, I've just known the car to be this way my whole life. Maybe I'll do it. Don't hold me to that. Obviously, the ones that came shortly after, like 2004, were a little bit better looking. The taillights were nicer looking. The headlights are more clear. But again, I've always known the car this way, so I kind of want to keep it that way. But we'll see. So anyway, that's going to be it, guys. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the next one.